All right, welcome back. The multinational effort to secure the Red Sea is in full swing. And today, President Biden was asked if the airstrikes in Yemen are working. Listen closely to his response.
Well, when you say working, are they stopping the Houthis? No. Are they going to continue? Yes.
Rather stark admission while taking a rare reporter question. The airstrikes in Yemen are not working, according to the president, but the attacks will continue anyway. Anyway, despite the elevated risk in the Red Sea, oil prices have actually dropped since the Iranian-backed Houthis began their attacks in October. The only major shift has been a massive decline in ships traveling the sea. Freight container volumes through the region have collapsed, down roughly 65% from normal volumes. By the way, it's going to be a major economic hit to Egypt, which relies greatly on revenue from the Suez Canal. Let's talk about all these issues with Democratic Congressman Khanna. Congressman Khanna, it's great to have you back on last call. I want to get to the election and tech and AI in a minute, but I got to start with this. You tweeted out today about what we just heard from the president, and then you topped it. You said, glad the president agrees with me that the strikes are not working. Next time, come to Congress instead of McGurk. I assume you're referring to National Security Council Coordinator for the Middle East, Brett McGurk. Congressman, doesn't Article 1 of the Constitution prohibit the White House, the president, from unilaterally launching attacks on a sovereign nation without the approval of Congress?
Yes. I mean, this is not a complicated question. The White House had time to talk to the Australians, the Canadians, the United Nations, the Brits for a month and a half, and they didn't have the courtesy to come to Congress. This is a violation of the Constitution. The president has the right for imminent self-defense, where he can notify Congress in 48 hours. That means if the Houthis launched a missile against our ship, you could take that missile out. But you can't have bombing attack after bombing attack without congressional authorization.
Well, we want to defend any lives in the region, and I have a relative, by the way, that's on one of the naval ships in the region. I want to defend the lives, but I feel like, Congressman, that this is the first time I can remember, and doing this for almost 30 years now, where we launched preemptive and sort of proactive strikes inside of a country to defend commerce, shipping.
Well, as the president said, they're not working. The Red Sea today is less safe for commercial ships than it was when we started these strikes. And if we talk to the Saudis, which I have, or UAE, they would tell you that they had a bombing campaign against the Houthis for 7 years, and it only entrenched the Houthis. And what we should have is a diplomatic solution and statesmanship, having the Saudis and UAE involved, telling the Houthis that if they want to have involvement in Yemen's government, they need to stop these attacks. But we haven't even tried that. And I guess what I want to know is if the president wants an authorization for military force, what's our plan and how are we going to be effective? Brett McGurk has been responsible for the disastrous policy in Iraq. He was responsible for the disastrous policy in Yemen. I mean, the question is, what has he gotten right?
Well, I worry, Congressman, we just had some New Jersey guardsmen, reservists, be called up to Iraq and Syria. I understand it's part of a regular rotation, but I have a friend also in that group, and he's nervous. He's got 7 kids. He's going to northern Iraq and then to Syria. You've got bombs being set off inside Iraq. You've got what's going on, obviously, with Israel and Hamas. You've got the Houthis, sending missiles and drone ships effectively here. I just wonder how close we might actually be to a hot war, for lack of a better term, in that region, Congressman. It's terrifying to think about again.
Well, I'm concerned. I think we can avoid it, but I'll tell you something that unites the right and the left. Most Americans don't want us to get involved in another war in the Middle East. They don't want to put our troops at risk. They don't want to put our embassies at risk. They certainly don't want to put our homeland at risk. And they rather that we be investing in building up our country. And so my view is that the president needs to figure out how do we de-escalate the tensions in that region and make sure that we're not increasing the risk of a war.
Yeah, I would just hope any president, this one, the next one after that, whatever party, would come to Congress and uphold the Constitution on this issue in particular. But, Congressman, let's shift gears for a second. The election, expected to be plagued with waves of misinformation. There's probably stuff out there. You represent a big chunk of Silicon Valley. I'm sure you're talking to these tech companies. How are they preparing for a potential flood of mis and disinformation? Because as you know, and we all know, we need, as a nation, these elections to be seen as the most secure and honest in modern history. I'm sure you would agree.
Well, it's a big challenge. The first thing we need to do is clearly label something that is AI or bot generated as computer generated, so Americans know whether something is human and real or whether it is being generated by AI. And we need to make sure that people's privacy is protected. Right now, what you have is these big tech companies are taking a lot of data, and then they're targeting a lot of content at particular people, and that's really what creates the opportunity for virality and the spread of misinformation. I want to protect Americans' data. That should be bipartisan.
Yeah, how do we do that? Just like on Instagram, you got to, tag if you've been paid so people know it's an advertisement. Have some warning or some label, this is computer generated. It may be false.
Exactly. I mean, you should have labeling for anything that is computer generated, but you also should have a clear Internet Bill of Rights in this country so that Meta can't just take any data from your using Instagram and then use that data to target you and have an AI algorithm show you information that they think that the machine thinks you may like and share. We need to restore people's privacy in this country.
Congressman Khanna of California, never afraid to come on and take the hard questions on hard topics, and we really appreciate it, and so do our viewers. Congressman Khanna, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Coming up first.